Hello and welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, and we're going to be discussing today player sales. Now that's a bit of a new one because recently we've been speaking a lot about players coming into the club, potential signings, Ousmane Dembele, Felipe Coutinho, very small details that are still being updated on those two. Apparently we've been in Germany to possibly negotiate the final stages of the Dembele deal. Whether that's true or not is yet to be seen, and there have been more and more rumours linking us to Felipe Coutinho, but once again nothing quite concrete on that one just yet. But today we're going to be talking about player sales because a few people have asked me, who could be possibly leaving the club before the end of the window, because that's what we've been trying to do. We've been distracted by the Neymar thing, but now we sort of still want to offload this bit of deadwood that we've got in our squad. And I'm going to be going through 6 players today who could still possibly leave the club in the small time that is remaining in this transfer window. And we're going to start with Thomas Vermaelen, who's a player that's been quite widely talked about throughout the transfer window so far. And the fact of the matter is, when we saw him in pre-season in the United States, he did play quite a few minutes. He was quite decent, he was quite solid, he was certainly a fair enough defender. You could put him as 5th choice perhaps, and then the inevitable happened, and you guessed it, in our practice match against Gimnàstic de Tarragona, he did get injured. Now it is reportedly only a knock, so it's nothing serious, and it possibly couldn't hamper his potential move away from the club, but it is definitely a theme of what his time at Barcelona has been like. He's been sort of decent, he's been solid, he's been okay in the team, we've quite liked him as a player, and then he gets injured, and that's been the problem with him. He cannot shake off these niggly injuries, these lengthy injuries, and all of them combined have meant that he has not been a success since he signed here back in 2014. The problem that we have now, he's 31 years old, and he's still got a contract for 2 more years at the club, so it's not like Jeremy Mathieu where we can sort of write off the rest of his contract and let him go on a free transfer. We will probably want a fee from the club that wants him. So far, the likes of West Brom, Everton as well, are potentially interested in signing Thomas Vermaelen this summer, and it does seem like if he does leave the club, it will be to head back to the Premier League where he was before we signed him from Arsenal. But he was signed in 2014, like I say, 18 million euros we signed him for. And by the way, the injuries are nothing new. When we signed him, we knew he was injury prone, he'd spent a lot of time out of action at Arsenal, and nothing has really changed since he's arrived here. And actually, he's only made 11 La Liga appearances in his entire time at the club. He did score 1 crucial goal against Malaga, which I quite fondly remember, but that's the only bit that you can really say that he'd actually live up to his price tag. He's made 21 appearances for us in all competitions, and the problem with him has been injuries. He's been a decent player, but unfortunately injuries are the stumbling block. The problem that we have though in trying to sell him is, like all the players I'm going to mention, he's on quite decent wages, and I said he's got 2 more years left on his current contract, and that is very, very difficult for us. Shifting somebody who's quite injury prone, who's currently on very, very high wages, and have still got 2 years left on their deal. So hopefully we can receive an offer from a Premier League club, but if we can't, we're once again going to be stuck with Thomas Vermaelen this season, and the possible arrival of Inigo Martinez means that really we do not need Thomas Vermaelen this summer or for the season ahead. Number 2 will be a player that you're all very much aware of, but we've hardly seen anything of him. It's Douglas. 27 years old now, he's just had a birthday yesterday. He too has a contract at the club until 2019, so he too has 2 years left on his current deal. He signed in 2014 just like Vermaelen. He signed originally for 4 million euros, and since then he has made 3, I repeat 3 La Liga appearances in that time. What an absolute waste of time this has been, not only for Douglas but for us as well. He's made 8 appearances for us in all competitions. Last year he spent the entire season on loan at Sporting Gijón, making 23 La Liga appearances, which by the way is nearly 3 times more than he made with us in all competitions. Now, and that's the problem really. He went on loan to Sporting Gijón. He wasn't bad, but he clearly looked like a player that didn't belong at Barcelona. He was never really Barcelona quality, but once again we're stuck with him now. He's still under contract. He's got every right to remain here if he wants to. We can't really force him out if the player really doesn't want to go. And I sort of read something a few months ago that Douglas wants to stay at the club simply to get Spanish citizenship. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous that we've allowed ourselves to get in this position. It shouldn't have happened. He shouldn't have been signed in the first place, and he certainly shouldn't have been on a contract this long, and he's got 2 more years on that contract. Benfica are reportedly interested in him. They look to replace Semedo this summer. There's been a few reports coming out of Portugal that he could end up at Benfica on loan. We don't really want to do that. We want to try and sell him, but once again the suitors and potential interested clubs are not that high, so we're going to have to take what we can get, and it may well be a loan for Douglas this summer. The third player that I would come on to would be Arda Turan, 30 years old now. He was signed during our transfer ban, that period that he couldn't play in 2015, and he's got a contract once again for even longer. He's got 3 years left on his current deal that runs out in 2020. Now, he was signed for an absolutely whopping 34 million euros plus a potential 7 million in variables and bonuses. Whether those have been met, whether those have been reached, we don't know, but even so, that's a staggering fee for somebody who was in their late 20s. The timing of the signing was quite key. It was during Bartomeu's presidential campaign, and he wanted a big signing to sort of get the Socis on board and to vote him in. Whether that worked or not, we don't know, but what we do know is he is president, and Arda Turan has definitely not been a success during his time here. He has shown in flashes a bit of quality. You know, he's scored a number of goals since he's been here, 55 appearances in all competitions, 15 goals and 11 assists. A lot of those have come in the sort of Copa del Rey, but he did make a few impressions in the league, in the Champions League. But on the whole, Arda Turan has not lived up to the standard that we expect when he arrived here from Atletico Madrid. He's actually offered himself in the past few days to Atletico. He wants to leave the club, although he doesn't really want to leave the club. I think he's being forced out, to be completely honest. But like I say, just like all the other players, Arda Turan's happy to remain here. He's on very, very good wages. He's very highly paid. He's got a contract for 3 more years. He's at Barcelona. It's a lovely city. Why would you want to go? And that's the problem. We have to stop getting ourselves in these positions whereby we're giving players long contracts at the end of their careers. He's not desperate for game time. He's got nothing left in the game to prove. He's on great wages. Why would you want to go? And that's the problem. We cannot shift these players because they are on too good of terms and they're so comfortable at the club, and we cannot get them out. So he reportedly offered himself to Atletico Madrid. Of course, they don't want him back. He didn't leave in the greatest of ways, and obviously he hasn't shown himself to be that great in recent times. The most likely destination right now looks like Galatasaray on loan. They're in for him. He started his career there. They're willing to offer 2.5 million euros to take him on loan for the current season. So once again, we're looking at a loan instead of actually selling the player and getting shot of him from the wage bill and the squad entirely. So it's a bit of a shame, because when Arda Turan joined, he was certainly somebody who couldn't wait to play for the club. He certainly gave his all while he was here. You can't sort of question that. He does give his all on the pitch, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, it has not worked out, and it really hasn't happened for him here, certainly for the massive transfer fee, and he is likely going to be on his way out this summer back to Turkey on loan is the most likely thing. The fourth player that I would mention is Munir El Haddadi, 21 years old now. He's got a contract until 2019, so he's got 2 more years with us. We're looking to possibly sell him or loan him in this current window. He didn't play an awful lot of games, and he didn't get a lot of minutes in pre-season under Ernesto Valverde. The arrival of Paco Alcácer also puts him a little bit further down the pecking order. He spent last season at Valencia. They had an option to buy him, which they did not take up. They didn't feel like he warranted that option to buy. And there's been a few clubs over the summer that have been reportedly interested in him. First of all, St. Petersburg came in. They wanted to buy him. We said no. Munir didn't really fancy the move there also, I don't think. Then Ajax came in with a reported offer. Whether or not that was true is yet to be known. But again, he's still here. We are sort of waiting for offers. We do want a bit of decent money for him, over sort of 15 million euros, which is not going to be easy to obtain. I think the most likely thing right now is to see Munir go out on yet another loan to see if he can prove himself. But so far during the first team, since he's been promoted from the B team, he's made 45 first team appearances, 10 goals and 10 assists in that time as well. He's certainly a player that when he originally emerged, I remember his debut on the first game of the season against Elche, he scored and big things were expected of him. He went on to make his Spanish debut, but since then things really haven't happened for him. He suffered a big dip in confidence. Maybe the hype got to him a little bit, the expectation that can sometimes happen when you're a young lad emerging at Barcelona. For whatever reason, he's 21 years old now. He needs regular football. He needs to be developing at another club, and it does look like we're trying to sort of force him out this summer, but whether or not he'll get his move is yet to be seen. If he stayed at the club, I think he would be, quite well down the pecking order behind the likes of Deulofeu, Alcácer. He wouldn't get much game time, and like I say, he's at the stage in his career now where he needs to be playing football, and that's important for him and the club as well. Whether we loan him out or sell him, it does appear that Munir is surplus to requirements for the coming season. And that's the 4 players that I think personally have the most chance of leaving the club this summer. But the 2 final players that I will mention, because I think there is a very small chance they could still leave this summer, are Rafinha and Andre Gomes. Now, the only reason I've mentioned these 2 is because I personally wouldn't sell either of them. I would give them both a chance. I think Andre Gomes personally deserves 1 more season at the club to sort of gel, to understand the style of play and see if he can fit. He's still young. The same goes for Rafinha. He's a very, very good player. I think he's shown on a number of occasions that he's quite versatile. He's got the quality. We don't want to let him go and let another Thiago happen on our hands. But, of course, the only problem with him is his consistent injury problems. Hopefully he can have an injury-free season. Hopefully he can certainly link up with the squad quite soon. That's why he hasn't been playing in pre-season, because he's still recovering from the injury he picked up just before the end of last season. The only thing I would mention about these two is they could possibly leave the club if they're involved in a swap deal. Now, we've heard a number of occasions this season that Liverpool are interested in Rafinha. That could possibly happen if we maybe went in for the Coutinho deal. There could be a swap deal on the table there. And we've also heard that Juventus are interested in Arda Turan. Possibly if we pursued Paulo Dybala, there could be a little bit of a swap deal on the table there. But we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. I think the four that I mentioned, first of all, the likes of Vermaelen, Douglas, Arda Turan, Munir El Haddadi, those are the most likely to leave the club. I think Rafinha and Arda Turan will be at the club next season. Valverde can certainly put them to use and certainly use them throughout the season in terms of rotation and the number of games that we have to play. They could well be of use in the coming season. And what I want to look at now, I just want to look at this quick chart that I made. Basically, what I did was I looked at each player's transfer fee, and then I looked at the amount of league appearances that they'd made during their time here, and I worked out how much, and this isn't even including wages, this is simply the transfer fee, how much we had paid for them per league game that they played, right? Thomas Vermaelen, he's 18 million transfer fee, just 11 La Liga appearances during his time here. That works out at a staggering 1.6 million euros per game that he's played in La Liga. Douglas isn't much better, just 3 La Liga appearances. The only consolation with that is that we only paid 4 million euros for him, but that still works out at 1.3 million euros per La Liga game. Arda Turan, 34 million initial fee plus 7 million in bonuses. I'm going to round that up because we don't really know how many bonuses are going to be activated during his time here, but he made 36 La Liga appearances, so I would say that's very nearly 1 million per game that he's played for us. And I just think for those 3 players, that sort of money per league game is ridiculous. We have to be more clever in the future. We have to sort of plan much better than this. We cannot keep signing players who are coming to the end of their careers, coming to the end of their peak, and putting them on long contracts with high wages. We need to plan better, we need to be smarter, and we certainly need to spend our money more wisely. The board are to blame, there's no doubt about that. They have to front up to this, and now they're trying to correct their mistakes by selling these players and getting as much as we possibly can at their latter stages in their career. So leave me your thoughts down below, guys. Who do you think should be sold this summer? If there's anybody on this list that isn't here and you think should be, please let me know down below and explain why you think they should be sold. I will see you very soon. There's more videos coming up on the channel, as well as a podcast coming this week as well, so stay tuned for that. I will be back soon, but until then, as always, Vesca el Barça.